Hey, g'day everyone. It's Justin Flitter here from PlayBooks.live. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. So Playbooks is a meetings app for business advisors and teams to help you run more effective meetings. Today, everyone is running virtual meetings with video conferencing tools like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts, but they don't actually help you run effective meetings. You still need a platform to invite guests, to assign action points and agenda items, to write notes and minutes, to run an effective meeting and hold people accountable to keep business flowing. Badly run meetings cost businesses billions of dollars every year, and Playbooks exists to solve this problem. What's very unique about Playbooks is the ability to add expertise into every meeting. So Playbooks can be written by you or your team members for product and service information or employee onboarding, or you can access the public library of expertise written by topic experts like our speaker today, Rod McDonald from Hover Integrations, who are business automation experts. So Rod and Hover Integrations have published a series of playbooks in the public marketplace, and we'll show you those very shortly. But first, please welcome Rod McDonald from Hover. Hey, Rod, how are you? Nice to see you.
Yeah, really well. Thanks, Justin. I actually had a connectivity issue for the last minute and a half, so I missed the intro bit, but I'm sure it was brilliant from what we chatted about before. And yeah, the connection seems to be up and running now.
You're here right now. It's great to have you here. So business automation is it's a bit of a gateway drug for artificial intelligence and machine learning and robotic process automation, right?
Yep, that's fair to say. At Hover, we focus on the beginning piece of that and utilize third-party SaaS products that are in market that can just help automate some of those tasks and streamline workflows. But certainly in terms of the spectrum that it fits into, for the bigger and more sophisticated entities, it can lead down to a path where they're engaging in robotic process automation and things like that. Yeah.
So I guess today, like, the technology has been democratized and developed, so fast over the last few years. So it's now way easier for companies to kind of look at the different business processes that they've got and figure out ways to, I guess you help them figure out ways to become more effective and efficient. Process automation is a huge, emerging industry at the moment. So what are the types of business problems that you're specifically helping your clients solve?
Yeah, so we help, as you said, we help clients use technology to improve their productivity and to provide that platform for growth. The three areas that we focus on are software systems initially, so that we help people understand the landscape of all of the options. As you've said, it's been democratized. There's no need to go and develop custom solutions for problems now. There's third-party SaaS products in market that are fantastic at solving either broad or quite niche problems. And we identify the right ecosystem for a business and integrate those products to create quite an automated operating system. We then look at the underlying processes in a business to ensure that there's compatibility with the way you want to perform your processes or execute your processes and the way that the software ecosystem's been structured for you. So on that process piece, it's about optimization and automation there. And then the third element of what we do is help business owners get better insights out of the data in their business. So you've got your software system built up, everything's functioning nicely because your underlying processes are operating really efficiently. And we just help get that data out into reports and visualizations so that the business owner can make better decisions.
Look, that's awesome. And it's so important to be able to leverage and harness that data that every business has got within their organization, right? We're producing so much data every day, and like even the processes which you might feel are quite kind of manual and human driven, they're repetitive, and so they are still creating data sets that we can be harnessing, right?
Exactly. And I mean, even if
Yeah.
even if a task or a process is being executed manually, you're getting data such as your time sheeting, and which comes back into your job profitability and all of that sort of stuff. So lots of useful data. It's knowing how to wrangle it and get it into a way that can be absorbed and interpreted.
Yeah. Well, I guess, Playbooks is looking to automate and create efficiency gains around meetings so that, the time that you spend preparing or following up on a meeting is shortened because you've got a platform that automates the meeting creation through Calendly and can streamline the follow-up and the task lists and the things that have got to be done behind the scenes. And of course, with that knowledge base that we've got inside Playbooks, instead of having to kind of go, hey, I know this guy Rod from Hover, I'll go and ask him about process automation and then come back to the next meeting. We've got some of that expertise sitting in there right in that meeting to keep it going so it's fast and effective. So it's a really nice collaboration we got going on here. And we like to run these webinars and meet people like you, Rod, because we like to find out about the people who are helping small businesses in New Zealand grow. We really share that passion to showcase the businesses in New Zealand like yours that are growing really fast, and how we're actually helping businesses utilize technology and harness that as they scale and grow. So it's really cool. So how did you get started? How did you get started with Hover? What's your background?
Yeah, so I've always kind of been in technology project management roles, and that sort of culminated in running a web development agency where we would build custom solutions for clients. And it was there that I saw the need that, coming back to your point earlier about the democratization, instead of going and building custom solutions, there's often a SaaS product already out there that can perform a very similar task. And often when you implement a software system, you're making compromise in some way, whether it's the feature set or how it adheres to your processes or the cost you're paying for it. And so I sort of looked at it and thought there's a really good opportunity here to build out ecosystems of third-party SaaS products, which takes, instead of having a CapEx cost of building software, you're taking it into an OpEx cost, and you're able to get up really quickly. You've often got world-class support, product support, training support, security is always at a very high standard. So that was something we just explored and really proved that out with clients a little bit more who went on this journey with us. And we're at a place today where I think especially in conjunction with the process optimization piece we do, it's a nice niche for us, and clients seem to get real benefit from it in terms of driving that productivity in their business.
Yeah, two really key things you mentioned there. One is the ecosystem. So being able to bring a suite of companies around you, but also working with partners. And the software as a service model is fast to spin up. It's super quick to get started. And so you can get the benefits and the business impact so much quicker than if you were building something yourself, or I guess you were looking for another option, right?
Totally. I mean, look, there's always going to be a place for custom software solutions as well, and of course, but we're going through a project with a client with that now, supporting them on that journey, and that's a 6-month build. Whereas, the ecosystems that we put in place, we start with the job management solution at the heart of the ecosystem, taking from proposal to invoice for a service business, and building out the ecosystem. The time to impact is dramatically lower when it's with third-party SaaS products, for sure.
Yeah, right. So what type of companies are you working with?
We work predominantly with professional services firms, accountants and legal firms. Broadly though, what we do works for anyone selling time for money. So we could also work with construction services businesses as well. But it's because our ecosystem is hubbed off that job management piece, it really is services businesses who see the most benefit. And from our perspective, it's the focus on that business type means that we're able to be better at what we do for those companies. If we tried to broaden our scope, we'd probably be a little bit shallower in our capability.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, with any of those businesses, time is money, right? So anything that they can be doing to become more productive and more efficient is going to be better for the bottom line.
Exactly. And look, we probably focus on a particular business size out of that as well, which is that kind of mid-sized firm. And that is so when you're gaining efficiencies and you've probably got a dozen or so seats in your business, you're able to see material return on that investment. If it was obviously a sole trader, it's a different story and probably less applicable with what we do.
Yeah, I mean, once you kind of get to that kind of 10 to 20 size, things start becoming a little bit more complex. You've got to have a few more systems in place. And again, once you kind of hit that 50 and 100 seats, you get extra layers of complexity in the business, and your processes need to become that much more robust just to keep things, running at pace, I guess.
Exactly. And we've seen that in the clients that we typically work with, they've grown their businesses quite organically from nothing into something quite material. And the process and systems that they've used to get to that point are fairly organic, and that's totally fine. It's a really good way to go about it. But you do get to a point where growth is stymied unless you kind of look at things holistically and really work through to develop a strategy for how you move forward from there. And so we do find, call it 15 seats in a business, potentially is where that happens. It could be opening a second or subsequent office locations where you don't have management sitting in both locations, and you need consistency in the way you go about delivering your business. As more people join and sit around the table, and each person is passing on the knowledge to the next employees, it's really important they've got that single source of truth with how our business operates and how we service our clients. And that's where the processes just being documented and having them out of the head of the business owner is really valuable. And that's a real starting point for the journey we go on.
So with the clients that you're taking through this, process automation projects, what are the key benefits that their business is getting out of it? I mean, time's obviously one of them, but what are some of the kind of key business outcomes that they're seeing?
Yeah. So getting the process out of the business owner's head is just a really good starting point, and you have it documented as the standard operating procedures. Once you build that into software, you can have, far higher, greater consistency in the way you go about delivering your work. So that's things like reducing the errors, reducing the time to deliver. So this translates nicely into customer benefits, like when you're onboarding clients, using things like data capture forms. You sort of see those as the tangible improvements in a business. It would also obviously double handling of data from one system to the other. Things like that can be removed or reduced, which frees up employee time to go and work on higher value tasks as well.
Yeah, I mean that double handling of stuff happens so often, doesn't it? When you got multiple people checking things and things flying around all over the place. So yeah, it's really key to have that. I guess you've got to start with, as you mentioned, with that process just really well documented and well mapped out.
And if we come back to the beginning piece where we were talking about the ecosystem that we build out, sometimes if people have come from an environment where they've got, in a bigger business, an ERP tool that sits across everything, all aspects and all business units, the real benefit of that is having the data flow integrated between the modules in an ERP. And as people have shifted into an ecosystem approach, potentially a smaller business, there's a feeling that the data sits in silos, and it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what we really look to do with the ecosystem. We use business process management software and tools like Zapier or Automate to be able to connect, if they don't have a native integration, to be able to connect those software systems together. And really simple example of how that stuff works. You might have your website with a new client capture form that can go to an inbox. And if you're running these as silos, if that inbox doesn't get checked, then potentially a new lead is missed. Whereas if you've got something like Process Street, which is business process management tool, it's really simple to get up and running. You can integrate your email inbox in with your CRM, for instance, and pass that contact information through. You can then push it to the right person in the organization with a documented series of steps that they need to take in order to go back and facilitate the next steps. And so that could be then integrating your Calendly link to set up time for a partner to contact the prospect and kick off potentially an engagement.
It's also holding people accountable. People often you have a process, but that doesn't get followed, or it gets done to a certain point. But when you've got an automated system like this with notifications and alerts and key things that you've got to do, it's very easy to spot people who aren't following the process, right?
Yeah, it is, and the software can be set to follow up automatically, which is good. So they do get their reminders. You're not necessarily having to learn another system to use. The system will follow you until you say, yes, I actually have done this task now. But yeah, it's a good way for business owners to have oversight. You can log into your dashboards and see where all of your processes are at in terms of, you might have 6 people in the client onboarding process. You can see where they're at in the stage of their journey across each of those. And as the business owner, you can go and follow up with the team member responsible to that and see where it's sitting or blocked and follow up really easily. So when a process is run manually, you have to go and verbally get an update. Whereas when it's run through software, you can see that.
One thing you mentioned just there, what I thought was quite key, is people don't have to learn another piece of software to do this. So, because that's always a bit of a roadblock, isn't it? Oh, it's another solution. It's another piece of tech that we've got to learn. It's another manual and training workshop and all that kind of thing. But with this stuff, it's sitting under the surface, behind the scenes, making stuff happen, isn't it? So it's not like they have to go through and learn. I mean, someone will probably do, but it's not like everyone has to learn a new system, right?
No, that's right. It's sort of it's an underlying piece of software that sits in the background, and it just prompts you to do things into your inbox from time to time, and you can operate it from within your inbox. So, yeah, I mean, it's you set it up and you get it running. The benefit, the point of the software is that it integrates the other tools that you've already got in play, and it passes the data between them and just helps you run through a process in the right order, with the right person completing tasks in the right way, using the right bits of software. It just gets that adhesion to process working really nicely.
So I think Playbooks is perfect for accountants and anyone developing their advisory practice. So we work with the same kind of customers. So, and a lot of accountants are building out their advisory practice, or starting to build an advisory practice and expanding their value proposition to their clients. So what are the most common processes that you're seeing automated this year?
Yeah, look, there's always the opportunity in pretty much, may not be 100%, but pretty much any service business to further optimize that job delivery kind of key workflow, taking from proposal to invoice, because that's where you make your money. It's the bread and butter of your business, and the more you can optimize that then the greater the potential for margin or capacity. So we do a lot of work in that space, obviously. A bit of a hot topic at the moment is AML and how you run clients through that process. And then the client onboarding, again, it's a first interaction for a lot of potential customers. So you want to be really effective, really efficient, and leave a really good impression. So I think the underlying thing for all of those processes is that they tie back into the customer experience. And was the turnaround time acceptable or really good? Was it error-free? Were you contacted by the right person at the right time? Not being chased up multiple times for pieces of data, from the client, all of that kind of thing. So they're customer experience related, and they also have internal costs. So the more effective and efficient you can be, you can protect your margin.
Yeah, I mean, again, anytime we can be building seamless customer experiences, that are data led, that's a good thing, right? And as you said, first impressions matter, and especially if you're trying to win new clients and keep people on board, reduce churn, and all that sort of thing. It's just such good value. Yeah. So for an accountant or a business advisor or anyone running a professional services business who thinks that they've got a process that could be automated, what are the use cases that they should start with? What should they be looking for?
So the starting point is probably to understand the formula of how to tackle that cost-benefit analysis. You're probably looking at the cost of the labor to perform a task with the amount of time it takes to perform the task with the frequency that the task occurs in. And you can start to put a dollar value against what that process is costing the business over a period of time. In terms of use cases, I think there's probably two main focus areas. Like, you can get quite tactical and say customer onboarding or something like that, just as a something that could always be improved in a business. I think that is probably an area of potential differentiation for some firms, that they say, hey, we want to be outstanding at customer experience. So what are all of the touch points in a business, and what are the processes behind those touch points, and how can we really sharpen all of those up? So even if maybe the financial case isn't there for it today, over time, it creates a better customer experience, which leads to better word of mouth, better quality clients, all of that kind of thing. So maybe that is one way that they could go. Another, though, also quite tactical, is just to look at where things are currently slipping through the cracks. So I mentioned before that kind of instance where somebody gets emailed a piece of information and it just sits there and it gets missed. Things slip through the crack. Another area to look at is when you come back to that equation, that financial equation, and you consider the cost of labor for doing a task manually, the higher cost employees, partners, people like that in a business, if they're highly involved with, for instance, a client onboarding process, and that could be automated, then potentially that's one ripe to look at, right? Because the dollar cost of their time is so high.
We talked a little bit about kind of process automation being a gateway to machine learning and artificial intelligence, which certainly is, but it's very much that kind of first step. But to do this process automation work, do companies need to have a lot of data? Like, do you have to have a truck ton of really high quality, good data to be able to do this, or is it something that we can do without a whole lot of data at the moment?
We can do without a whole lot of data at the moment. Touching on that same point, the time value of a partner is really high, and so you don't need the volume of data or the frequency of the process to be run in some of those instances. If a partner is running a process and it's inefficient and they're doing it just once a month, that could justify bringing in some kind of process automation that lets them step back from some of the manual task. Yeah, I think any sort of situation where you're wanting to increase the timeliness of turnaround or the accuracy in how the process is delivered is probably an area that you could look at, and you don't necessarily need lots of data to uncover what those processes would be.
You just need a repeatable process, something that you're doing, you love to hate to do every day, every week, or every month.
Yeah, and look, the software is good enough now that you can run processes with conditional logic in there. And so that, even though the process might not be exactly repeatable, it's close enough, and it's got a uniform beginning trigger point and end point, really, that you can run conditional logic in there, so that even if it branches out and could go in totally different directions, the software can pick that up and still pass it to the right person or deliver it in the right way. So there is flexibility there. It doesn't. Some business owners might feel, I don't run a really regimented business. There's lots of variables that can actually be factored in.
Right. And I guess with any kind of new thing, there's a lot of excuses. People always put up excuses like, we're not ready for it, or we're too small, or it's not going to impact our business that much. What are the really common excuses or myths, if you like, about process automation that that you come across that business leaders need to overcome?
Yeah, and can't be hard on anyone, because it's totally rational to probably push back on change and find reasons for it. Probably what we hear a bit of is, or probably the leading myth, should I say, is that it's expensive. I'd contend that headcount is more expensive than process automation. In fact, I know it is. And so, humans are the labour market's only getting more expensive. Whereas if you put process automation in, then there are sort of cost benefits as you add to the volume of processes over time. So it's only getting cheaper. And then it comes back to the point where you compare the process automation versus the human option. And as they both take increased load, one maintains its accuracy rate and the other one probably reduces at some point and gets sick and takes holidays and all that sort of thing. So you can go and implement process automation in your business yourself and have no external costs, or you could use a company like Hover, and there's obviously a fee with doing that. But the point that I'm making is that both of those are going to be cheaper than headcount.
Yeah, and I guess it's not necessarily about. This is about augmenting our workday, right? It's not about taking people out or replacing staff with process automation. That's not going to happen at the moment for most businesses. It's about finding the repeatable processes that you do on a regular basis that can be automated, so that you can free up those people to do the higher value work, like closing deals and dealing with talking to customers and the things which computers aren't so good at, right?
Definitely. Technology is there to do the heavy lifting. There's no suggestion on my part that this is about reducing headcount. It's about getting that headcount onto higher value tasks, tasks that you can charge a higher rate for, tasks that are improving your relationship with your client. Definitely, that is the intention there, and that leads to more satisfied employees as well, because they're working on stuff that's actually interesting and engaging rather than manual, mind-numbing process. So, yeah.
So I mentioned at the beginning of this video that Playbooks has a marketplace, a content library of expertise that industry experts like Rod and the team at Hover have produced. So these are playbooks, which contain a set of plays. So in our content library, Hover have written operations, workflow automation, and capacity planning. And in here are a set of plays with talking points. So if you're an advisor or an accountant, or you're in a meeting with your team, and you're in a playbooks meeting with your team, and you're looking to have some discussion around workflow automation in your business, these are the plays to add to your meeting. And that you can, easily drop in, and they'll create those talking points to keep you going. And if you want to hear, some more information or dig a bit deeper, then absolutely, connect with Rod and ask his advice would be the key thing. I have one more question for you. Now we've taken a look at where the playbooks are in the content library. So there, if you scroll down, they're under operational efficiency. That's where it is in the content library. I'm coming back to you, Rod. Where is this going? In a couple of years' time, where do you see this process automation getting to? How's it going to transform the way that businesses operate?
I think it's only going to increase. It's certainly not going to decrease. I mean, probably the clients that we see utilizing this process automation most extensively are the ones in the advisory space. And I think that it's probably indicative of the benefits of it. If you're currently in compliance predominantly, one of the things that we hear from clients in that space is that they just don't have time to get to advisory. And process automation is probably you can add headcount to get there, or you can add process automation. And as in my opinion, two of the main levers. So I think it's demonstrated that it's a key tool to employ in freeing up that time and shifting into the higher value work. I think it also helps attract really high quality candidates because they're working on things that are probably more enjoyable rather than more menial. And it just leads to happier clients at the end of the day. So I think we're just going to see more of it. The industry and the availability of support is going to mature as well. People's skill sets will develop as the software develops and is more accessible. But I just encourage people to keep exploring it and keep trying to engage it because it's only leading to better businesses.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed learning about Hover and the process automation work that you can help business advisors and professional services companies. And thanks to all of you for joining us for today's video webinar. Really appreciate your time. We'll see you in Playbooks. Thanks, Rod. Have an awesome weekend.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Playbooks. Cheers.